Risk assessment approach. When conducting a risk assessment, it's important to follow a structured approach to ensure a comprehensive and systematic evaluation of risks. Here is a common approach to conducting a risk assessment. 1. Establish the context. Define the scope of the risk assessment, including the systems, processes, or areas to be evaluated. Identify the objectives and purpose of the risk assessment. Determine the criteria for risk evaluation, such as risk tolerance levels or regulatory requirements. 2. Identify risks. Identify potential risks by conducting a thorough analysis of the organization's operations, systems, and environment. Engage stakeholders, subject matter experts, and relevant personnel to gather input and insights. Use various techniques such as brainstorming, checklists, interviews, or process mapping to identify risks. 3. Assess likelihood. Evaluate the likelihood of each identified risk occurring. This involves considering historical data, expert judgment, and relevant information. Assess factors such as frequency, probability, or external influences that could contribute to the likelihood of the risk event. 1. A risk assessment method. One widely used risk assessment method is the risk assessment matrix or risk matrix approach. This method provides a systematic framework for assessing and prioritizing risks based on their likelihood and impact. Here's how the risk assessment matrix method typically works. 1. Identify and define risks. Begin by identifying and defining the risks that need to be assessed. This involves comprehensively analyzing the organization's operations, processes, systems, and external factors that may pose risks. 2. Define likelihood and impact criteria. Establish clear criteria for assessing the likelihood and impact of each risk. Likelihood criteria evaluate the probability or frequency of a risk event occurring, while impact criteria assess the severity of the consequences if the risk event were to happen. 3. Determine likelihood and impact ratings. Assign ratings or scores to each risk based on the established likelihood and impact criteria. This can be done using qualitative or quantitative scales. For example, likelihood ratings could be low, medium, or high, while impact ratings could be negligible, moderate, or severe. The risk assessment matrix method visually represents risks and helps prioritize risk management efforts based on their severity. It offers a structured approach to identify, assess, and address risks in a systematic manner, supporting informed decision-making and resource allocation. 2. Documenting a risk assessment. Documenting a risk assessment is crucial for maintaining a record of the assessment process, findings, and recommendations. It ensures that the information gathered during the assessment is captured accurately and can be referred to in the future. Here are some key steps to effectively document a risk assessment. 1. Risk assessment report structure. Start by defining the structure and format of the risk assessment report. This will depend on the specific requirements of your organization or any applicable industry standards. Typically, a risk assessment report may include sections such as an executive summary, introduction, scope and objectives, methodology, findings, risk register, risk analysis, recommendations, and conclusion. 2. Executive summary. Provide a concise overview of the risk assessment, highlighting the main objectives, key findings, and recommendations. The executive summary should provide a high-level summary of the assessment for stakeholders who may not have time to read the full report. 3. Introduction. Introduce the purpose and context of the risk assessment. Describe the scope of the assessment, including the systems, processes, or areas evaluated, as well as any limitations or constraints. Remember to maintain confidentiality and adhere to any data protection or privacy requirements when documenting the risk assessment. The report should be clear, concise, and accessible to stakeholders who need to understand the risks and their associated management strategies. Regularly update the risk assessment documentation as new assessments are conducted or as risk profiles change.
Thanks for watching. For more information, like, comment, and subscribe our channel.